Welcome to Connect and Access, and we are thrilled to have you join us for this dynamic roundtable discussion where educators and state system of support partners from across the state can come together to collaborate, problem solve, and share insights. So this monthly gathering is designed to foster meaningful conversations, provide valuable resources, and strengthen our collective efforts to improve educational outcomes for all students. So, in this interactive space, you'll have the opportunity to engage in rich discussions, exchange ideas, and explore innovative solutions to real challenges in education. So whether you're seeking some new fresh strategies or looking to learn from the experiences of your peers or eager to contribute your expertise, this Connect and Access is a place for open dialogue and shared learning. So in the chat, you should have access to the resources for today. And today we are excited to welcome our guests from California PBIS and SIP. And we are going to be engaging in a discussion on school climate and positive behavior supports. So thank you for being part of this collaborative community. And if you could, in the chat, if you want to enter your name, your location, and your role, that would be wonderful.
So before we begin, we want to make sure that you have access to all of the resources for today's session. So the QR code on the left will take you directly to today's slide deck. I have also been adding that into the chat. And the QR code on the right will give you access to the SSOS, the Statewide System of Support Connect and Access Implementation Guide. This is going to become a dynamic resource that is designed to help LEAs in California build and strengthen school-wide systems through evidence-based strategies and resources that are shared in today's session. So throughout the session, as we hear from our partners on the call, I will be on the back end adding those resources that are shared today. So we just want to do quick introductions. My name is Lori Balsano Wright, and I serve as the coordinator for the Open Access Project, and we are associated with the Placer County Office of Education and Placer County SELPA. Leah Padilla is also a coordinator on the project who has been leading the call today so far. We are honored to have Patty Shetter from the Placer County Office of Education here today with us. Patty is a coordinator in the Prevention Supports and Services Department at PCOE. We are also thrilled to have Sarah Lincoln from Supporting Innovative Practices. She is a program support specialist out of the El Dorado County Office of Education.
And before we dive in, we just want to make sure that everyone has access to all of the presentation materials. And at Open Access, we are dedicated to the principles of universal design for learning. So we just want to highlight some of the strategies that we are doing throughout our presentation. So you'll notice that the slides are high contrast, they have high contrast text and simple backgrounds. We've also provided that shortened link and the QR code. And then we also have alternative text for images And we'll have lots of time for discussions and feedback and reflection today.
So we just want to take a few minutes to make sure you are familiar with the projects on the call today. So we'll start with a brief overview of open access. Open Access is one of the statewide special education resource leads within the statewide system of support. We are grounded in the foundational belief that with access to quality instruction, all students can engage, actively participate, and learn with inclusive settings. And what makes our project unique is that we highlight the importance of learning and participation for all through Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, assistive technology, or AT, and augmentative alternative communication, AAC. And so be sure to bookmark our website that's linked there on the slide to access our free universal resources, really designed to support the implementation of UDL, AT, and AAC. And if you want to click on the image to view our flyer, detailing our three-tiered approach to assisting LEAs and SELPAs statewide. So today's topic of discussion centers on an important question. How do we create school-wide systems and practices that promote positive behavior, belonging, and safe learning environments for all students? So we will be exploring this through our problem of practice, which focuses on school climate and positive behavior supports. And as we think about this challenge, there are four common root causes that often surface across schools. One of them being inconsistent expectations and restorative practices. This can really lead to confusion and mixed messages for both students and staff. Another common root cause are weak student relationships and a limited sense of belonging, which can really impact engagement and behavior. Another common root cause is disproportionate discipline for some student groups, highlighting the need to examine our systems through an equity lens. And finally, limited staff capacity and engagement in positive behavior supports, which can make it difficult to maintain consistency school-wide. So as we go throughout today's discussion, keep these root causes in mind. Think about which ones really resonate most with your current context and where your team might focus to strengthen a culture of belonging, safety, and positive behavior for all learners.
So, Connect and Access is all about connecting projects to practice and looking at how our statewide initiatives align to support positive behavior, belonging, and safe learning environments. So, two of our key partners in this work are California PBIS and Supporting Innovative Practices SIP. So, California PBIS project helps schools build consistent systems that promote positive behavior, equity, and social emotional wellness. And SIP focuses on creating inclusive environments where every learner is valued and supported. So we are excited to have these two projects share with us today. And I'm going to pass it over to Patty, who's going to give us an overview of California PBIS.
Thanks, Leah. Thanks, Lori. Thank you so much for the invitation today. As I was listening to you guys talk about the problems of practice, I was like, well, this is exactly why PBIS exists. So I'm here actually representing California PBIS, although I work for the Placer County Office of Education. So I want to tell you a little bit about California PBIS. Also want to give you some kind of general information about what PBIS is. I'll ask you guys in just a minute to kind of enter in your current knowledge and expertise about PBIS, so I don't go too much into things you already know. If you'll go to the next slide. A little bit about my story, just so you know how I came to this work. My background and training is in behavior analysis. So I've always been really interested in supporting students who have those kinds of challenges. And so I spent lots of years in special education. Came to Placer County 3 years ago after being a coordinator for a statewide project that focuses on evidence-based practices for students with autism called CAPTAIN. Had the privilege of coming here to Placer County to become part of our PBIS team during a time when the focus on integration of more than just discipline was really becoming an emphasis. And so making sure that we're supporting students equitably, students with disabilities, students with mental health needs, not just those students who have externalizing kinds of behaviors that often draw our attention to them and get them the supports that they need. So been here for about 3 years now, and I'm doing a lot of work around, I call it PBIS for all, and making sure that everybody knows how to support any student in equitably accessing PBIS. Go to the next slide for me. So the mission of California PBIS, Leah kind of summarized, but a lot of people don't know that we are part of the statewide system of support. The goal of California PBIS is to make sure that we're able to build supported, integrated, sustainable approaches that expand the capacity to promote evidence-based, culturally relevant social, emotional, and behavioral practices that create thriving schools and community environments. Slide for me. And we do that through a connected network of regional technical assistance centers. So each region of our state has an identified California PBIS Technical Assistance Center that offers training and technical assistance and resources to the counties and LEAs within their catchment area. We're all linked and interconnected through California PBIS and have a really strong relationship and receive guidance from our National Technical Assistance Center for PBIS as well. You can link on that slide to find who your local TA center is and get their contact information. PBIS is probably the oldest and most established example of a multi-tiered system of support in existence. And we have seen it grow substantially in the state of California over the last decade to 20 years. Right now, as of the 24-25 school year, we have almost 3,500 schools in California who are implementing PBIS at fidelity. So we have lots of other schools that are implementing pieces of it, or who are implementing it and don't use our data system to let us know that they're doing it with fidelity. But we know of at least 3,500 schools who are doing PBIS really well in California. So broad reach. But I want to ask you guys now, like, how much do you already know about PBIS? So for those of you that are on the call in the chat, if you would, tell me based on a 5-point scale, with a 0 being, I don't know anything about PBIS. This is the first time I'm hearing about it, to a 5 being, I am very fluent on this. I'm part of my PBIS team in my district or at my site. I teach other people about PBIS. If you guys wouldn't mind just waterfalling your responses into the chat right now, that would be super helpful. So it looks like Eric knows a lot. That's awesome. We've got quite a few people that are 3s, 4s. All right, so I'm dealing with an expert group here. So I'll just whip through really quickly a review of what PBIS is and focus a little bit more on what some of the outcomes are and how we can make sure that it's being equitably implemented. All right, if you'll go to the next slide for me. All right, this one has lots of animation, Leah, so be ready with your fingers. PBIS is a multi-tiered system of support that utilizes this framework. We tease and we call it the PBIS tattoo. Go ahead and just click through the animations for me. We use evidence-based practices that are intended and shown to produce positive outcomes for students. But the focus is also on creating systems that tell the adults in schools what they need to be doing to be consistent and to support students. Data is a really big piece of PBIS. Data informs us of what students need, how they're doing on the interventions, and it also tells us about whether or not the adults are implementing the things well and with fidelity. Equity is a central focus of PBIS. It should be available to all students, and the research shows it's effective for all students. The goals of PBIS are to improve social, emotional, and behavioral outcomes for students, and we also see some really nice outcomes as far as shifts in culture and climate and teacher retention that I will give you some information about as we go. Go ahead. So it's an MTSS, it's a multi-tiered system of support. Schools usually start by implementing Tier 1 universal practices and systems. And these are things like creating consistent expectations, 3 to 5 expectations that are taught and recognized and acknowledged and reinforced by everyone on a school campus, and developing a response system so that when students are engaging in behavior that might be inappropriate for the context of school, everyone's consistent with how they respond to those behaviors. When they're ready, schools start implementing Tier 2 interventions, which are more targeted and involve things like group-based skills interventions and performance interventions to support students who need something a little bit more than Tier 1 to be able to access. And Tier 3 are those intensive individualized interventions. A very small percentage of students really require intensive individualized interventions, but those are layered on top of Tier 1 and Tier 2. It's not a separate thing that students would receive. It's part of the multi-tiered system. Okay, next slide. PBIS has been well researched, and one of the things that you can be sure of, if you're implementing PBIS with fidelity, you will see improved outcomes. And some of the outcomes that the research has shown PBIS to influence are academic, social, attendance, emotional regulation. All of those improved student outcomes on the left have been demonstrated. We also know that it reduces exclusionary discipline and some of the disparities that we see oftentimes with racial inequities in discipline. But this is really important. We also see improved teacher outcomes. So higher levels of satisfaction with their job, improved climate and safety, and retention of teachers who stay in the field because they feel equipped to deal with these challenging issues of student behavior. Go ahead to the next slide. We also know that there are lots of great equity outcomes for students who attend schools who are implementing PBIS at Fidelity. And that one on the right is the one that I'm always most impressed by. Students with disabilities are 69% less likely to be referred to alternative settings for disciplinary reasons if the school is doing a good job of implementing and including students with disabilities in their PBIS. So it has major implications on belonging and LRE and all of those things. Okay. Next slide. Lots of other great outcomes for students with disabilities, specifically improved prosocial behavior, decreased absences and tardies, and fewer internalizing and externalizing behaviors, to name a few. Go ahead to the next one. Because the exact problem of practice that you guys brought to the table is exactly what PBIS is all about. I didn't know where to even start with the specific resources and practices. So I curated a few on this slide that specifically addressed some of the problems of practice or some of the areas that you guys emphasized in that first slide. But these are all available and a ton more on pbis.org, the National Center's website. There's videos, there's implementation briefs. There's so many amazing things that are there to be able to help you either learn about, teach others about, or dive a little bit deeper into what PBIS has to offer when it comes to this particular area. So it's just a brief overview. Um, there's California PBIS. We're on the socials and would love for you to follow us. And you can reach out if you have additional needs or questions to the center and or your local regional technical assistance center.
All right. Thank you so much, Patty, for that overview of California PBIS. And now we're going to pass it to Sarah Lincoln from SIP.
Thanks for having me, everyone. I am Sarah Lincoln. I'm located up north. I'm in just outside of Redding, California. I'm a program support specialist through El Dorado County Office of Ed, and we support the Supporting Innovative Practices Project. It's a technical assistance project charged with supporting LEAs throughout California to increase inclusion, equity, and achievement of students with disabilities, and truthfully, all students. Our mission and vision. So, our mission and vision is we are committed to upholding human dignity by challenging exclusionary practices through systemic change. I'll let you finish the rest, but our commitment to upholding human dignity means that we look beyond individual interventions to examine and transform the systems that create those barriers for students. And we're here today because often behavior is a barrier. We do this through everybody's a tier. We do this through a tiered support system. So our tier one support is no cost professional development. We can offer it in person and virtually. We have archived virtual events on our website, but we also go out and support LEAs in any project related to special education, inclusion. We do support UDL as well. Our tier two is for grantees. So you get in, often you've participated in a tier one activity and you want to do more with SIP. And this is where we can provide you with personalized professional development. We work with your leadership team for strategic planning, again, to look at those systems changes. And there's some grant funding available in that tier two service. Tier three is for districts in level two intensive compliance and improvement monitoring. So this is where we receive grantees through the California Department of Education. And this is specially designed technical assistance where we're supporting your continuous improvement plan. We do all of our work based on our blueprint for innovation. So what we do is we work with you to create that plan, and you're going to enter through this blueprint at any point in the circle, and we're going to support you through it. So ideally, we're going to catch you at envisioning, so where you're thinking about your plan. And we like to note that this process, that when you work with us, we want you to know it's not a one-off project. It is a 3 to 4 year process to really make systemic change in how we approach inclusion and supporting students with any need. And SIP support of innovative system-wide practices creates a platform for embedding evidence-based practices into everyday school systems, thereby enhancing behavioral support infrastructure, not just isolated classroom strategies. I went really fast. We do this. We hear from schools. We work individually with schools. So I'm located up north. I serve about 5 counties to the north. And what we do is we meet with you and we talk about what is happening in your schools. Well, in response to that, we know that behavior is a big issue. So this was one of our recent endeavors to support schools to address some of these issues. And I know that it's a 4-part, it's kind of hard. People want to walk away with strategies, but you go through the 4 parts. And it was strategically set up like this. The first one, we always like to honor the lived experience of former student, a student with disabilities. So Laderick presented for us last night. It was gorgeous. And then the next one we're going to look at your the teacher response. So how do we help support regulation and co-regulation in those classrooms through regulating our own nervous systems? Then Dr. Sylvia is going to talk to us about the environment. What can we do in the environment to support? And then Mitch is going to go a little bit further. That one you'll probably walk away with a few more make and take type strategies. But even he talks about embedding it in that tier one level so that everybody has access to executive function support. And these will be recorded and archived on our website. And I think that's all I have. Oh, we are on the socials too. We're big on the socials. We are a good time group, so we're all over them. So scan the QR code and join us.
All right. Thank you, Sarah.
All right. So now that we've heard, thank you both, Patty and Sarah, for that, for sharing your about your project and your examples. We're going to shift to a roundtable discussion, and this is really a facilitated Q&A with all participants on the call. So this part is really about connecting ideas to implementation. So we invite you to begin thinking about what you've heard today and how you can apply in your own district or school site. And these are questions here just on the slide to spark discussion. Feel free to pick one that fits your context, unmute, and start the conversation. Our partners on the call are ready to jump in with examples, clarifications, and connections to supports as we go. And again, these are just a guide. If you want to, if you have your own specific question, we'd love to hear from you.
Jump in with a broad one. I think what most districts probably struggle with is taking this initiative as a top down and actually effectively making it happen at the site levels. So I guess, and that's my lens as a special ed program specialist. And hi, Patty. I know you from way back when. It's good to see you. Uh, yeah, tips and strategies for administrators at the district level to get this going and make the work happen. We're very fragmented in most of our initiatives in our district and what we did. We just came off a conversation with a bunch of admin this morning saying, like, how do we get all of us basically paddling in the same direction about anything, you know? So, and beyond just the posters and the rules, which I see intermittently around our district, like, what tips would you have at a district leadership level to really get this off the ground? No pressure.
Great question, Nick. It's been a lot of the work I've been doing since I've been here in Placer County. Because, oftentimes what we see is maybe a really highly motivated site administrator initiating PBIS and getting their staff excited about it and getting it going at a site level. And then you have this one lone island of excellence that's out there implementing. A lot of times you're right. People take bits and pieces of PBIS, like the posters, and they put them around the school. And that's all that they do. But we know that in order for it to really have those impacts that I was talking about, it has to be implemented well. So how do you do that? So we have shifted our way of doing PBIS here within our regional technical assistance to actually starting with a district and community leadership team. And when I say district and community, it's not just a lot of administrators from the district level from different departments. That's part of it. But engaging the community in the initial exploration and planning of what PBIS could look like within that district, involving families, involving former students or current students, getting community partners who are also focused on the areas of mental health and behavioral health involved, because we might need them to be able to do some of the advanced tier work initially, where we have to refer our kids for some of those tier 3 intensive interventions. And so it's literally a year of exploration and planning and engagement with the community to be able to identify what the vision, the mission, the goals, to link it to the LCAP, and really be able to then start. I also tell districts all the time, Go slow to grow. Start with a demonstration site that is really well equipped. Get them doing it well. And then you can take the little slower to follow, or maybe the non-believers, to actually see it in practice. Because that changes a lot of minds and that motivates a lot of people when they can see what it actually looks like, and see the data, to be able to show, like, this is where we started. Here were our behavior referrals or our discipline referrals when we started. We've been implementing for 6 months, and here's where we are now. So those are some tips that I would have for you. And we work with districts all the time that have been doing it for a while and maybe have had some drift. And we're coming back together and kind of reorganizing and reorienting and picking back up where we, kind of left off, and assessing strengths and needs, and going from there too. So thanks for the question, Nick.
Thank you very much, Patty.
My question for you would be, how do we get Tier 3 training experience when, you can't pull out all your teachers, you can't pull out all your aides, you can't, with contracts, a lot of the times the aides aren't included in PD days. How do you get everybody experience? A lot of times you do PD in isolation when the kids aren't there, so it's not happening at the time, on the job training. How do you truly get it, get them trained to deal with Tier 3? Because Tier 3 is what's happening, right? All over the place.
So, any of you guys ever experienced or are experiencing the upside down pyramid? Like Tier 3 instead of this way? There's a saying in PBIS that you can't Tier 3 your way out of a Tier 1 problem. So the sad reality is that if all you're doing is Tier 3, everyone's going to need Tier 3. So the focus and emphasis has to be on Tier 1 and improving those universal implementation and interventions that everyone can and should be doing anyways. So a lot of times we just start there and we say, okay, what can we do at Tier 1 to be able to support all students so that we turn the pyramid the right way up? Knowing that at the same time, you're going to have kids who have intensive needs. Training on a Tier 3 practice or intervention is great, but training by itself isn't always what's needed. We know that we can build people's knowledge or understanding of a Tier 3 intervention, like a behavior plan, and FBA and BIP. That's a really common Tier 3 practice that is needed and utilized. But really what it comes down to is the coaching and support that takes place. At our Technical Assistance Center in California PBIS as a whole, the Tier 3 FBA to BIP process that we promote is called Prevent, Teach, Reinforce, or PTR. And it's unique in the sense that it was designed specifically for schools based on lots of failures of doing FBA, BIP in schools for years and years and years before that. And it involves pulling together a team with that teacher being the lead of that team to identify what's happening in the environment that might be creating some need for the student to engage in behavior to communicate. And what is it that they're getting out of doing it? And what can we, in the context of the classroom, with the staff that we have available, do to prevent, to teach them how to do something different and better to meet their needs, and to reinforce that student. And so it's a team-based process, and it's been found by actual research in classrooms, real live classrooms, not laboratories, but public education classrooms, that when we engage in this work collaboratively and use that framework and those models, that we can not only reduce the student behavior, but build the capacity and the feelings of efficacy of the classroom staff. Because it's not an expert coming in telling them, you need to do this, you need to do this, change that. And the teacher's going, how do I do that when I got 30 other kids? It's them actually helping to design the interventions and what works. So it's really more about that.
So how do we get support in that area?
So I would say go to your Regional Technical Assistance Center. Let them know that you have a desire and a need to get some folks trained in PTR, or that you would like to have someone from their staff come out and facilitate some PTR behavior plans. Some centers can do that direct technical support. And if they don't have anybody that's doing that at their Regional Technical Assistance Center, then one of the surrounding may be able to support you in doing that.
Okay, because I'm part of PCOE. So
Oh,
yeah.
Call me.
Okay, perfect. Yay. Thank you.
I'd love to hear from anyone else if you have specific questions, or maybe looking at one question that's kind of sparking your interest on the screen here.
Just want to highlight what Patty said. The collaborative energy is really where the training time needs to go, because so often we attend one training and then it's that momentum and steam is lost if we don't have that continuous meeting where we're going back to that plan. And PBIS plans are absolutely gorgeous, but we need to revisit often so that everybody stays focused on what the goal is, because that's when the energy drops off, is when we lose that momentum and don't continue to meet and collaborate around what is working, what's not working, and what do we need to adjust in our plan.
Thank you for that, Sarah.
I'm curious. I have a question for those on the call. One of the things that I'm encountering and taking on as my personal mission, oftentimes people who are involved in special education, either at the district level or at the site level, aren't part of or involved in the district or school site PBIS teams. And they need to be. They need to be. We need the expertise of special educators. We need the viewpoint of folks that understand students with disabilities, to be there to make sure that whatever's going on at the universal level is implemented with universal design in mind and with accessibility as part of it. So I'm just curious if you guys are a part of, or if you're seeing special educators at your school sites and in your districts becoming involved in PBIS.
Well, I'll say from my experience, I'm work out of the SELPA office as a program specialist. And from the start of our district's implementation, I've always been part of the district team. And then now being an ACER and going in and assisting schools with basically getting the data to show where they're at and how well they're implementing. I just hear from the teams I work with that they appreciate the perspective that I'm able to bring, because I do see education and learning a lot different than my counterparts in instructional services who are, here's the curriculum and get this and just go by the book. I'm used to working in that gray area of special ed.
Awesome. I'm so glad they're embracing that. Thank you for being there at the table.
I can share also our PBIS team does have special educators at the county level, has people with special education background as part of the team. My only concern that I saw as a trainer is that sometimes districts would try to dump the PBIS load onto the special education team. And so that was my only concern with including them, is now, did they become responsible for some of that PBIS work instead of just being a contributing member of the team?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, your kids are the discipline problems, so you should lead
You
this
do
work.
You do it.
We work on the opposite end of the spectrum. We're always begging for general education teachers to come on in when we're working with schools. So to increase that inclusive community and to increase those indicator numbers, we're always asking general ed to come on over, help us out. But we look at an inclusion improvement team when we're doing work with a district. So we even want HR because we want job descriptions reflective of the inclusive mindset that we're trying to promote. When you are surprised about it when you're applying for a job, that's hard. But if they know coming in that we are an inclusive community and we want school bus drivers at our events because we often see challenging situations on school buses. We want the noon duty aide at our trainings because playgrounds are notorious for challenging behavior. So I want all the representation.
Such great discussion. Anyone else want to spark another conversation, ask another question?
I was just thinking, Sarah, do you want to share a little bit about the SIP showcase sites? Maybe a way for people to see that in action?
Absolutely. I'm not sure of the exact number that we have. I think it's
Oh, that's
9.
okay.
But I know that in November, the 6th, we'll be down at Da Vinci High School. We have preschool to high school demonstration sites where you can experience inclusion in action. So, Mary, the two north ones that I'm closest to that I've actually visited, Marysville Preschool is a show or a demonstration site that you go in and you look at what inclusion looks like for Marysville related to preschool, and it is absolutely the best trip, always full. They usually have between 40 and 50 visitors every time to it. So we don't typically open it up to the public, but because our grantees get first dibs, but some of them that have less reservations, then we will open them up. Then down the road a little bit, we'll have one in Yolo County in Davis, California. There's a high school that shows universal design for learning. And throughout the state, we have demonstration sites that are showcasing some form of inclusive activity. So it's either UDL, it's either co-teaching, or it's well, I guess Marysville would be co-teaching as well. So we're demonstrating something that we go out and train on, and those schools open their doors and let us come in and poke and prod and look at everything, and it's really a wonderful thing. So if you are a SIP grantee, I would encourage you to reach out to your program specialist to go on a little tour because they're really fabulous.
Thank you. And at Open Access too, we also have showcase sites for Universal Design for Learning and AAC. So another way, I remember Patty saying like people want to see things in action. So on our website, we have information about the open access showcase sites also.
And if you want to see really good PBIS in action, California PBIS does organize a recognition system every year where schools who are implementing PBIS apply, and they use an objective measure for fidelity called the Tiered Fidelity Inventory. And depending on how they're doing with implementation and what they're able to submit, they're acknowledged at the platinum, gold, silver, or bronze level. And so on the PBIS, California PBIS website, you can identify where those platinum schools are. And they are the schools that are implementing PBIS across the tiers really, really well, and would encourage you to call them up, talk to them, go see them, take your folks if you're thinking about implementing PBIS to see what it looks like in action.
All right.
Resources happening in the chat right now. So,
Yes.
and
All right.
such
Well,
great discussion.
yeah, thank you everyone for sharing. We wanted to let you know that you will have access to the strategies for implementation. So we've been adding resources in there so you can take those back to your teams and share. And we just really appreciate the questions and the ideas that have been shared today. And feel free to reach out to Patty or to Sarah if you have additional questions. And Lori just put that implementation guide in the chat for you.
So as we close, we'd love for each of you to drop one commitment to action in the chat, or feel free to unmute and share with the group. Something small but meaningful that you plan to take back to your site or district based on what you've learned today. It could be a conversation that you'll start, a resource that you'll explore, or a strategy that you will try. So take a moment to reflect and share those next steps.
I'll unmute. I'll probably open a huge can of worms in my district, but at least at our district leadership team, I'd like to get it on the agenda where our sites are at, even with PBIS. And we have initiative fatigue. There's a lot we're doing already in other places, so it may not go anywhere anytime soon, but it'd be a nice temperature check to see where we at in our practices. So yeah, I think we'll commit to getting that on the agenda.
Awesome. And we have lots of activity happening in the chat around just asking questions and visiting sites, connecting with those on the call today. So lots of great next steps for all who attended.
All right, as we close our session today, we just want to thank you all for attending and thank you SIP and California PBIS for coming and sharing your expertise. And we want to let you know that our next Connect and Access will be on January 22nd. And our problem of practice will be around academics and achievement. And we will have partners from the statewide system of support. So far, California Includes will be here and Project Muse. So we look forward to you joining and learning more about their projects and ways that we can support all students with academics and achievement. So feel free to share this Zoom link with other colleagues.
Again, thank you for attending today. We extend our sincere thanks to Patty and Sarah for generously sharing such valuable and insightful information with us today. Thank you for the participants on the call, just being engaged. The expertise and contributions really helped develop an enriched understanding and inspired thoughtful discussion. So we appreciate your time today and your effort in making this webinar very informative and impactful for those who attended. So please reach out to us with any additional questions or further assistance. And then we'll do our little shameless plug. Be sure to follow us on socials as well, as we are on Facebook, Instagram, and X.